Hey, folks, welcome to the Generational Gap. I am Robert, your resident Gen Xer, and right over there is John, our resident millennial. John, how are you doing this evening?
Not too bad, not too bad. How about yourself?
Hanging and banging, my brother. Hanging and banging.
And bang.
It's
Like at the
the
same time, or are you alternating?
it mutual exclusivity. It comes into play here. We got a few folks in the chat. Elephant Man with the maybe he'll be here, maybe he'll not, but I believe he's here with a hello. I see Saint in here. Good to see you this evening as well. Your bitchiness as well. Are we bitches, John? Are we bitches? Are we?
According to Saint, alleged by Saint. Yes, we are
uh,
alleged.
alleged,
Yes.
allegedly bitches. And I see Midget B over on D Live this
What up,
evening,
brah?
slipping in a little of the D this evening.
Haha.
It's good to see from Midget. Little d being the operative words there, but nobody's judging. John,
Robert.
how was your fantastic time away in St. Petersburg?
It was fantastic. I'm actually really glad of the timing because we actually left on election day to go over there. So I was able to be easily distracted and not have to like deal with the constant influx of new and anxiety ridden like information that was coming in. Now, of course, I checked on things periodically, but I didn't have to like just sit there and let it all come flow over me the entire time. It was nice.
Hey, John. John, carry the conversation for a minute. Talk a little bit about what you did in St. Petersburg. I need about a minute and a half. I got a dog. I got a dog. A dog is the
Oh
problem.
shit.
Un
Okay.
momento, por favor.
All right. So yeah, we had fun over there. We went to Fort DeSoto Park, which is a fort from I think it was from earlier, but its main function was in like World War I. Not that it did anything, but yeah, it was mostly in ruins though, so it kind of sucked. But the park was nice and it was fun. And then last night we went to a comedy show, and that was really fun. So yeah, that's about it. And Elephant Man's asking, how is Florida not center stage in this disaster? Yeah, I know. I'm very proud of Florida for not being the center stage for once.
I don't understand
An
it.
election. Maybe they got their shit together, or they were just like, "Oh no, it's not our turn. It's time to let other states be in the spotlight for a bit." So I don't know, but yeah, it went. It was going blue for a little while, then it went red, and it stayed red. So there you have it.
Did you ever have one of those times where you think you forgot something
See,
very important?
Midget B has a good explanation because we have a base Republican governor. It's true. We do have that, but we did have that last. Uh, I guess he wasn't based necessarily, and a Republican legislator. That's fair. But yeah, we definitely had Republicans in the last couple of elections as governor. Republican election officials. That's true, man. The Democrats lost a lot of sway here in Florida. I think because of the 2018 the gubernatorial race that people lost faith in Democrats, at least in Florida.
Well, yeah, it's I don't know. It's I still think it's going to be I guess this is not one of those elections where
Yeah,
it,
that's true.
you can't look at this election as the the norm, right? I mean, this one's a lot different. There's so many factors in play that make
Yeah,
this different than regular elections to know which way a state's going to go. I mean, look at Georgia. I mean, right now we're currently looking at Georgia that is like just a few thousand votes in
yeah,
Biden's favor. I mean, I'm kind of in shock by that. Um,
yeah,
it's like a 4,000 vote difference in his favor, which is kind of surprising from Georgia. Um,
yeah.
yeah, it's been kind of weird. So you come back from St. Petersburg, and still, it's like
Still don't
a
have a president.
pause, a time pause. Nothing. Nothing crazy, right?
Yeah, Jesus.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, nothing crazier than 2020,
Then yeah, exactly. Then what Midget's saying about new normal. Yeah, nothing
right?
outside the new normal.
Okay, I gotta read these a couple of things to you because I thought they were funny, right?
Hmm.
And it's based off of Trump having put out a tweet.
Are you gonna
Um,
shut them on screen on the
I
stream?
can, I mean,
Yeah,
I
that's
have
probably best. People like that.
but he put out this tweet, and here, let me share it with you so you don't get sketchy.
I don't get sketchy.
Well, you never
What's
know
that
when you're
supposed to
going to get
mean?
sketchy and be like, oh, I can't see it because I'm a big man.
You're
Um,
acting real sus right now,
am I?
Robert.
All right,
Yeah.
so Donald put out this tweet that says Philadelphia has got a rotten history on election integrity. Nothing major, right? Nothing too crazy.
Yeah.
these this these couple of tweets that came up in here as I was just kind of scanning through responses were just kind of funny. So that's it. I've been an American citizen for 2 years, and in all my time being one, that being 2 years,
Right.
I've never seen an election so fraudulent. How many have you seen in 2 years, sir? Uh, enough.
Well,
Until they
two.
fix this country, I'll be moving to Texas, where they actually know how to run a country. And I'm like, okay, I could see that. I could get that a little bit of there at the end, because Texas wants to be its own place. Maybe they have, but in all the elections he's seen in the 2 years he's been here,
Yeah.
this has got to be the most fraudulent.
Thing is, that's obviously a parody account. I'm just saying.
I would
That
hope
and
so.
that's a copy pasta also. What that all caps thing is that you just read out?
Yeah, there's
Copy
another one
pasta.
here, and this was
Okay.
funny, and I don't understand why none of it are. And it's the same thing. Rigged, rigged, rigged. I absolutely don't want to live in this nation where our great President Trump is being robbed. This is absolutely the final straw. My kids are in danger, and I won't live in this nation another day. I'm packing to Hawaii and finally leave the USA.
Yeah, it sounds like it's another parody, but who knows?
Tabitha. That's Tabitha. Well, she's got a, I, yeah,
See,
that's,
it's a troll tweet. Relax.
is it
See,
troll? Is it troll
and
tweet?
on her
Relax.
bio, it says it right there.
Right. But no, I love, I love seeing things like that. Where I'm just like,
Yeah, they're
yeah,
funny.
because
Tr-
there's people out there like, wait, uh, wait,
Like this person underneath that we see
I'm not sure if you're
that clearly
joking.
didn't look right. That clearly didn't look in the
Right.
bio. And not
But
only that, but you are using light mode. I just realized. Oh my god,
what is
such a
that?
pleb.
Am
You
I?
know, you don't have dark mode on
Yeah,
your Twitter.
because I don't need it. I read in
Let's
black
see.
and white. I do my reading in black and white, John.
What's the name of it? Pose law. Yeah, it's pose law that you're talking about, midget. Where you don't know quite if it's a troll or not, and it's hard to tell. Yeah,
Right.
it's pose law.
It's funny when you see things like that, mostly because of the way people respond to them.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
in seeing that. But no, Trump's really pissed off at Twitter right now because every time he says something about the election, they keep slapping on this information, there is unfounded, whatever, blah blah blah, and then they,
right.
include a link to election information, blah blah. I'm like, Twitter's not going to let you off on this. They're not going to. They're not just going to sit back and not troll you, for want of a better.
Right.
So, but right now, what was it that you just said happened as of a little bit ago? What was it?
Oh, I saw that one of the Supreme Court justices, which who have now already, I think Alita or something like that. I've already forgotten who it was. Yeah, they gave an order to have all the mail-in ballots that came in after 8 p.m. on election night were to be segregated and secured, and if they were to be counted, they were going to be counted separately, which and that there's a petition already before SCOTUS. So to me, that seems like they're going to be looking into election fraud.
Well, I would question whether or not they're going to be looking into election fraud, or now that Amy Barrett, what is it, Amy
Amy
Barrett,
Coney Barrett.
Coney Barrett, now
Yeah.
that she's on there, she can be the split decision and overturn the 3 day election after election that they got
Right.
approved by the Supreme Court. She can overturn that, and if she does that, then they don't have to look at fraud. It'll invalidate all of those that didn't come in on election day.
Right. And that is something that I agreed with the left on, or Democrats in general too, that is the plan. That's why they rammed through uh, Amy Coney Barrett's nominate or appointment, I guess,
Right.
as fast as they could because they knew this shit was going to happen. So they wanted to make sure that they stacked the court in their favor. Which I mean, you can talk about the ethics of that, but it's not like it's something that would be out of the ordinary for either party to do. It's not
No,
like they,
it's not out of the ordinary, but I really, God, you know how I feel
yeah,
about the Supreme
yeah.
Court, what it's become now, and that's just uh, it's sad.
Oh,
Midget, if your connection is having a problem, it should be on your end because I've got solid send all the way through.
yeah.
So
I've got the stream looks fine on mine.
yeah, I would check your connection. Elephant says, remember, boomers and millennials, there are two generations that can't stand you. And,
Oh, that's fine. I
that's,
don't mind.
yeah, I mean, if you want to lump me in with boomers, that's fine. Um, you know, I, I honestly believe Gen X just kind of stands apart. We were the scapegoats, you know, we were the one that all the shitty parenting expectations got dumped on.
Yeah.
And we had to try and figure it out. We had to try and figure out how we parented in this whole new world that was being created for us of, how you handle your children and
Whole
how you
new
deal with them,
world.
right? So, I'll consciously say, you know what? I, I'm Gen X. you know, we're Gen X. We're out of Gen. We're it's just yeah.
She's just Wakanda salute.
Is that what that was? Is that what making an X is a Wakanda
Pretty
salute?
much. Yeah, that's what it
Yeah,
is
because
now.
they originated that.
Right, but that's what it's
right,
become.
right.
That's what it's become.
Such a nerd. Um, so one of the things though you bring up fraud. Okay, so there was already talk. So you've seen the video from Veritas about the
Yeah.
guy from Michigan. First, there was a report um, from Traverse City on social media claiming that postal workers in Traverse City, Michigan, were backdating absentee ballots.
Hmm.
And this was, this was something that they were hollering about right before they started talking about it in Pennsylvania as well. But um, the problem with the Michigan claim is that Michigan doesn't take any votes after 8 p.m. on election day. They don't take any more ballots. So if there's no if the ballots haven't made it in, they're not going to be counted. So you could backdate them all you want, but they weren't in by 8 p.m. on election day. And that's why, they're saying that whatever claims there were in Michigan about this, they have to be false. They have to be false unless someone was going to try and figure out a way to sneak the ballots in. And then it's like, okay,
Right.
catch motherfuckers doing that, and then we've got our voter fraud, and you can go crazy with that. But a claim that they're backdating, you would think the post office would know when what the parameters for the elections
Maybe
are.
they don't. Maybe they don't. But I
Maybe
mean,
not.
still that's attempted voter fraud at the very.
Yes,
At
but
the,
not. It's not on the part of the camp. The election itself. That's
no,
the
no.
USPS would have to. They would have to suffer the repercussions of that,
Right,
right?
but it would also be proof that it is happening.
If well, proof
It
that
does,
it was
that
if
it's happening, not necessarily who's doing it or who's behind it, but it is proving that it is happening,
there.
and
It
that's
would
what.
it would prove it was happening there if it was true.
Yeah,
I mean, each individual case has got to be looked at. So, like they're saying that the same thing is happening being said in Pennsylvania. Now, there backdating would be important because you've got the 3 days after election to get them in. However, the requirement does say, well, it's a little loose, but it says 3 days after election day if postmarked by election day. So the backdating comes into play there if they can do it. But I don't know how you would prove that they've been backdated without actually getting, like,
You'd have to catch him on camera doing it or something.
right.
I don't know how you would prove it otherwise, except for like maybe there's evidence of another stamp on there. I don't know how they. I don't know. I don't know how they would backdate.
Yeah, see now, and what's interesting is, and I don't know if because if I remember correctly, only like Pennsylvania and North Carolina got approval to change to put those delays into effect, right? As far as,
I believe so.
yeah, I was pretty sure those are the one, but now other states already have this. So, for instance, you know, it's small fry, but Alaska, as long as postmarked by election day, there's a 10-day gap there that they can still get ballots in. Uh,
Jesus Christ.
California, 17 days if postmarked by election day.
Why?
Uh, I
We
don't
we
know.
know where California's going. Why do they need to?
The District of Columbia is 10 days after election day if postmarked by election day.
Yeah.
So there are places in this country, 2 weeks in Illinois, there are
Right.
places in this country where if you were going to do something fraudulent with ballots, there's lots of opportunities there.
Oh yeah.
Um, now, why? So I have to ask the question: if you have, and I'll go to the chat real quick. Midget says at the very least you'd want a deciding vote. Elfman says we made
Yeah.
Gen Z the most conservative in 100 years. That's true. Um, but so I'm curious, John, if you have some idea why Pennsylvania and North Carolina would we why would Pennsylvania be a target state to try and pump the votes?
Because Pennsylvania had a good chance of flipping even without doing that. It had a good chance of going red, and that's an important state. I forget how many electoral votes it gets, but it's pretty significant. It's not like a Florida or a Texas or California, but it's significant. I think it was like somewhere like 13 or 16 or something like that. It was pretty good. It was a pretty good amount of votes.
I
It
mean,
was also one that Trump hit the hardest, and I've said this on Edge Stream like 8 times throughout the night.
hmm,
That's Trump hit it extremely hard
well,
the
if
last like week or so.
if we go on the parameters that okay, well, let me ask you this: if something fishy is going on in Pennsylvania, does it invalidate ballot counts from the rest of the country?
No, it doesn't automatically invalidate them, but it certainly makes a better case for looking into them.
Okay, and do we and so um, does that mean we target specific states and request anything that's basically a 50-50 split? We ask all of those states to do recounts. Is that a smart option?
For the whole country to do
No, no,
recounts.
no. Only states
Oh,
that are deadlocked. That came down to, I mean,
well, it's not just
someplace.
about recounts though. It's also about making sure that only valid ballots make it in, and
Sure.
to watch the recounting to
So,
make sure that no one's like filling in extra ballots or
right, I understand.
because you saw that video, right? The one in Pennsylvania of the guy filling in the ballot while he was counting them. Like he was filling in another one, and the explanation for it, which I don't think is a good explanation, is that oh well, it was a damaged ballot, so he was just copying the information off. Okay, well, he was making sure that that guy's not just changing the vote while
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, so that's what I'm
Well,
talking about. So
for something.
that explanation really doesn't help either.
Well, I
That
mean,
doesn't get any better.
when it's all said and done, the expectation is to see the rest of the video. So when he's done with that, does he hand it off to someone, or does he just throw it in a pile where there's not a two-step verification at least going
I
on?
don't know.
Because you would think that would be a part of it. Was
You
that?
would
Did
think
you?
so, but we're also talking about government here.
Well, did the video go that far into showing him doing the?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Okay,
Not the one that I saw. Not the clip that I saw. So
because
I don't. There might be a longer one out there. I don't know.
ultimately, without by not seeing what he did with the ballot, because again, this may be a stand SOP in the
Right.
in an election normally for them to do that. So without seeing what happens to that ballot that he refilled in to replace it, it kind of leaves us hanging. Okay, was it taken out of context?
Right.
Is there more
So my
to that?
point is though that this stuff should be investigated. I'm not
Sure,
saying that this is absolute 100% proof of voter fraud, right? Some people
sure.
have said that. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that this stuff is worthy of investigation.
It's worth asking. I don't disagree that it's worth asking the question. Um, you know, and what I think this is going to do is going to shine a light on a lot of things that happen during an election that
Yeah.
we may not necessarily cotton to very easily or can stomach, but are
Mhm.
things that are normally happening that are not fraudulent, that may not be fraudulent, but
Right. That
we
might
don't
be dead.
like the open door to fraud that it creates.
Sure.
Because there are things that'll happen that it's just like, why are you doing that? And then they explain, oh, well, this happens. Like we see the vote dumps. All these votes came out of
Oh
nowhere,
yeah.
but it's miscalculations or numbers sent wrong,
Mm.
and they're saying, they say that happens with lots of states. This kind of thing. So, you know, I mean, I don't know that we've ever really scrutinized the election process the way we are this year.
Right. Which is good all around. To scrutinize as much as possible.
Midget says the margin was extremely thin in 2016, Robert, in Pennsylvania. The less interference, the better for the
Mhm.
process. And I can agree with that. He says if they interfere big, it's obvious. If they interfere here and there, people like you will apologize for them. No, I'm not
I
apologizing
don't.
for
Yeah. I don't
anybody.
think. I don't
Uh,
think he's
yeah,
apologizing.
I mean that's just a false claim. I'm not apologizing for anybody.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is if I talk about a reason that somebody's giving, that's the reason they're giving to us. That's what they're saying in the media for something that
Yeah.
happened. I'm not apologizing for it. I think the whole fucking system's screwed up. I think we need to find a better way. And I've said this for many years, haven't I, John? We need a
Yep.
better way of handling our elections because the way it's done now, I mean, hanging chads in Florida, I mean, I still have I still have moments where I'm like, which again makes me glad we're not at the center of all this time around,
Oh my God. Yeah.
right?
Because then my third party vote would I would have gotten so much shit for my third
Right?
party.
My third
Like.
party vote too, right? Um, so no, I don't
Which is
apologize.
funny because I don't know if you saw on Twitter when I retweeted somebody who was like, if you know anyone who are the 56,000 people who voted for Joe Jorgensen in Florida, it's like let them know how mad I am or some shit like that. And I was just like, cry harder, like, get the fuck out of here. Like,
Elephant
as if they were gonna vote for Biden. Like, come on.
Elephant Man says sure would be nice if Trump conceded and started campaigning on 121-21. That would be funny as shit.
Yeah,
Because he's got one more term, right, that he can run.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, you know, if he did make it. I want to make it very clear. I don't fucking have a horse in this race. I don't. Because I don't want either one of them in office. If I had wanted either one of them in office, I would have cast my vote for one of the two of them, and I didn't
Hmm.
because I don't have faith and or confidence in either one of them
Yeah.
to do what I
See,
want as a president.
I just didn't want to make the lesser of two evils
Yeah,
vote. But if I was to have to judge which one I think is the lesser of two evils, it would be Trump. But I didn't want to vote that way. I didn't want to vote for the lesser of two evils. I'd rather vote for my conscience.
I couldn't even get to that point in the decision making process. Like I tried to decide. Um, Midget, I'm not apologizing. I'm really not apologizing for anything
Dude.
that's going on. I'm not. I don't. If they fucked up, if you, all I'm saying is you got to have proof. You got to have proof
Yeah,
of
you
things
do.
that you're alleging. Trump standing up at a press conference and saying, "There's lots of fraud. There's lots of fraud. We're going to show it to you. It's coming soon. There's lots of fraud." And I'm like,
Well, then let it
that's
wait for him to
baseless,
show you. For
right?
sure, wait for him to show you.
Right?
And so, Midget, I think you're still kind of worked up from our conversation with Yaz earlier. So,
Um,
I mean, I'm just saying, like, Robert is not an enemy.
I don't I don't I just have a seat in the bleachers, man. I'm watching this. This is all I can do. Um, I don't. I'm hung like a horse, but I don't have a horse. Um, you know, I'm going to be, my horse is going to be shaking his head in sadness once they finally decide who won the election, because I'm like, either I'm going to have to deal with 4 more years of Trump pissing me off because he won't shut the fuck up, and doing 50-50 on policy maneuvers. I've never said, I have made that concession as well. He's right. He doing some good things, doing some things I'm not real happy about. That's
Yeah,
Trump. That doesn't get it my vote though.
he's done
Or
that
I'm
for me
gonna
too. Yeah.
or I'm gonna look at 4 years of someone trying to undo things that Trump did, trying to force feed us far
Oh
too much shit that
yeah.
is
Well,
going
and
to
he's gonna
negative
have
it's going to negatively impact us
and
moving
he's gonna
forward.
have the entire media behind him. So you're
Right.
gonna find out about how great Biden is and how great his policies are for the
And
next 4 years.
and that's if he lives long enough to maintain the 4 years.
Yeah, I give it 6 months. Not that he dies, but that he just steps down and Kamala becomes president.
So
I
I
give it
mean,
like 6 months.
that's why I say I don't have a horse in this. I don't. I mean, I don't. It's the Schadenfreude is my horse. My horse is
Well, the horse you
Schadenfreude.
have in this race is how either of their presidencies will affect you.
Yeah, I mean there is that. Yeah,
So that is a horse.
you know.
Oh, Ed over on D Live donated a diamond. Yes,
Nice,
donated a diamond. Said, "I'm
nice.
cheating on you guys with the RRC. You
It's
bastard.
it's
I
not
knew it. I
it's
knew he was doing
he's
that."
not really cheating. I mean it's part of this freedom scoop orgy. So I mean it's more
But
swinging. He's swinging
we
with
have a
ROC.
relationship, yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's like so fucking questionable. It's you've got you have to you've got people making the argument. And I love this argument. It's like, well, Trump, did you tell your voters not to vote by mail? Yeah. What was the did you see the meme? I forget. Was it in our Discord? Said
I
so
don't
your
know.
voters didn't vote by mail, right? And it said so. You know, most of the mail-in ballots are probably going to be Democratic. Yeah, so those are
Yeah,
probably going to go to Joe Biden. Nope, fraud.
most is one thing.
Right?
Most of the ballots being for Joe Biden is one thing, but when it's 100% of them, and it's like 150,000, 200,000, all of them, 100% of them for Joe Biden, it's a little suspicious. That's all I'm
Yeah,
saying. It's a very nice
and
circumstance,
and
not
that was a
coincidence, just like Epstein killing himself.
now there was
Whole bunch
validity.
of series of extraordinary coincidences that just
Now,
so happened.
now there was validity to that claim that there was a drop of like that many, and they were all 100% for Biden.
Yes, yeah.
Which state
Same
was that
with,
in?
I believe that was Michigan
Hmm.
or Wisconsin. It was one of those Midwest, like Rust Belt states. And then there was Georgia, who had a voter turnout of 104%.
Mm. Now I
Yeah,
saw something with that. We had that happen here in Florida, FYI,
yeah, that's not a big
in
thing.
Orange County. Well, I guess it's the way voter laws are set up. Okay, so out at near UCF, the district that's out at UCF, they had 102% voter turnout. Now, what happens there is if, for instance, you haven't updated your license, but you're now living in that district, you can update your voter registration information there at the time. So the way and the I guess the way it goes into the system, it winds up showing as a higher than 100% voter turnout because of updated information for the district.
Oh, and Midget B's correcting you over here. He said, and Trump said to sign it and send in mail ballots early. He never said don't vote by mail. I'm not gonna read the other one because
I
he's
was
gonna be
I was
mean,
I
but
was just I was just talking
because
about a meme that
I
out
get,
was out
right, right.
there.
But I also guarantee that Robert does not go to Reddit.
Yeah, I don't
So
fuck Reddit. I don't go to Reddit. I mean, if I ever wind up on Reddit, it's because I clicked a link that said there was it was a picture of a hot chick.
right, which you can absolutely find on Reddit.
Yeah. But
Also, swords are awesome. They're on Reddit too.
yeah. No,
Also, beautiful.
that was just like I said, it's all this dialogue, this propaganda, the meme wars and all this that are
Oh, the
going on
meme is
with it.
straight from Reddit. Says Midget B.
Well, wherever it came,
Okay.
I can promise you I didn't see it from Reddit, but I mean, it's not surprising something came from Reddit or 4chan or, where do
Right,
all
it's
the
gonna come from one of those places.
where do all the memes come from? you know,
4chan mostly. Oh,
right?
those the good ones at least.
Yeah.
The funny
Um,
ones.
but no, I think it's hilarious where we're at. It's laughable. I mean, this is literally feels like clown world. It really
Yeah.
does. And it's laughable from all sides. I mean, you know what's funny?
Your
What
face.
happened? What happened to
Oh.
Hunter Biden's emails?
Oh yeah, we don't give a fuck about those
Right?
anymore.
That just
Yeah,
gone now, right? Who's talked about that for 4 days?
it's
Nobody.
we've said that before too. It's irrelevant now.
Right?
The election day happened.
It's
Don't
just
need them
like
anymore.
we
Not
don't give a
useful.
fuck now, right?
Yeah.
Until if Biden wins the election, then it'll come right back up, and that'll be the soup du jour in the
Maybe
mainstream media.
we've got Henry in the chat first as always. I probably shouldn't have nutted on my ballot. Yeah,
Mm,
I don't know.
uh,
Maybe
no,
depends
no.
on if you're voting in a Democrat district. They'll probably like that.
You
They'll
just have
probably
to look
sniff
at
it a few times.
yeah, look at your local voter laws and see if extra sauce is allowed.
I
I mean, that's really what it comes down to.
mean, it's extra protein. I think. Yeah, isn't it protein?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's secret sauce since it's a secret ballot.
Yeah.
But no, I don't know. If you were if you were a gambling man at this point, I mean, we're still sitting at the same electoral numbers. Not much has changed there.
Yeah.
But if you were a gambling man, where would you put your money?
Well, in what? Like, who's going to win overall, or how it's going to go? Because I'm seeing it going to the courts, no matter what. Even if Trump were to somehow pull ahead, he got all the states that he needed to
Yeah.
get and won the electoral college. It would still go to the courts.
Well, yeah, and but factoring all that in, which way do you think it's going to go? I mean, do you if you at this point, knowing what you know, um, which way do you think it would go as it stands right now? Your opinion may change in 3 days, but
Yeah.
where do
No,
you stand right now?
I think Biden's going to be declared the president at this point.
Do you think the Supreme Court will uphold that through
No.
their decisions in regard to the to ballots?
No.
So
No, I think once they start investigating things, I think once they uncover actual voting fraud, and they're going to expand the scope of their investigation, and it's gonna take a while. But in that case, if it goes down to a SCOTUS vote, then Trump's going to be president
Um, do you
again.
do you think the onus is on President Trump's campaign to uh, to delegitimize the election in enough states to swing the electoral college? Is that something that's got to happen?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really the strategy that they're going with for sure is to delegitimize the election, which I
Well,
mean, it usually sounds really bad, but to be fair, the election process is pretty goddamn invalid.
well, okay. Now let me clarify here because you know, what I'm asking is on a state level, like specific states have to, we invalidate those
Right.
elections and either recount minus
Yeah.
mail-in ballots or whatever. Or are you saying delegitimize the election as a whole?
No, I mean I don't think they'll do it as a whole for
Okay,
sure.
okay.
Yeah, they're gonna get target those states that they need, and then that's what they're gonna. Oh, the right word is litigate.
No, they will
Says
litigate to
MJ. Yeah,
delegitimize the election. They're
I don't know.
trying that I know what litigate is. Litigate is take it to court,
Yeah,
and and
which is what they're gonna be doing. Yeah,
right,
of
and
course.
that's to verify the legitimacy, delegitimize or legitimize the election the election in those states. Um, because like tossing the whole fucking election, that goes into that scary worst case scenario that I've talked about before, where if he can delegitimize the entire election, he gets to sit in office until we figure out a way to run the election again
Right,
and do it right.
and we definitely don't want that. We don't want to. We don't want to win like that because
Right.
anyone to win like that because that stops us from being a republic and we start becoming a dictatorship.
How long do you think it would take to put together another election in this country?
Okay, with the government involved, years
So I could conceivably see it taking anywhere from 1 to 2 years to put together another election,
easily.
get us ramped up for the midterms. But if
Yeah,
that were the case, Trump would get 2 extra years in the White House because then when he wins that election, he gets his 4 year term. That's how it would play out. That's what
hmm
the Supreme Court would rule in that instance, I bet. um,
yeah, yeah. Read what Saint says here.
Says there is actually enough evidence to run a new election in Arizona as several votes were found not to have been counted, and former Nevada residents are finding they voted in Nevada. Oh,
That's
wow.
pretty interesting. Yeah, other countries have invalidated and reheld elections for less.
And both,
Is that true? I'm sure they have, but which ones? I mean, is it something that's close to our system, like one of the Western countries, or is it some third world country? Because that can be a different. There can be
right.
different reasons for that.
Yeah, and you've got to think about it. I mean, you're talking about the difference between us running 50 different rerunning 50 different elections because it's not just one election, it's each state has got to do it, right?
Yeah,
Because that's what we have in this country. Each state has its own election processes, etc.
yeah,
Versus a country that's just a country, and you can say a thing for the entire country, and it's fine because you don't have
right.
all these states making it up. Now, that's not true of every country in the world, but I don't know how quick it would be. I think it's not impossible. I just don't know how quick it would be. I don't think
Yeah.
that Trump's administration would rush it. I would not see him rushing it, right?
He's actually kind of right. American elections are on the level of a third world country. There's at least no, they're not as open about corruption and you know falsifying elections. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that America isn't open about that. I'm saying that they're not as open as a lot of third world countries are about that.
Um, yeah, it would not be an easy process, um, because I don't know. I mean, maybe you wouldn't have to do the entire. I don't know that you could do it on just some specific states. That's where it starts to get tricky. I mean, the first step is going to do recounts, major recounts, right? Invalidate certain ballots. The Supreme Court's going to do that, and then they'll have to recount the state.
Mhm.
And then if they're still not, I mean, if they recount the state with, only, as Trump calls it, legal ballots, and he still loses, will he still fight it?
Most likely, I can't see him giving up.
I mean, that's the question the ultimate question I have is he in it to fight for only a win, or is he in it to fight for a
Oh no, no, no,
fair
yeah,
election?
Yeah, yeah. Don't get me wrong. He's not in it for like, oh, I care about free and open elections. No, he's obviously he wants to win, right? He's a very competitive and very driven man. He obviously wants to win, and that's why and he's obviously not used to losing, and so he's not going to take it easily.
Saint says I've had anecdotes in circulation through Facebook, and an Arizona State Senate candidate talked about petitioning the governor for a new election. Wow.
So anecdotes, unfortunately, Saint. I mean, anecdotes are nice, but if there's no like proof of it, it's very difficult to believe, especially through Facebook.
Well, I can give credence to not that it makes anything happen, but a state candidate for state senate talking
Yeah,
about a new election. Now,
right. So if you got it
did
from the actual state senate candidate, like not obviously not personally, but from
right?
one of his
Saw it.
social media things,
Right.
then yeah, for sure. Then at least there's talk of it, and if those anecdotes could be true. I'm not saying they're not. I'm just saying that they're anecdotes, right? Like people can make shit up easily, especially on the internet. It's very easy.
Now the only thing that comes to mind when he says that is he said as a state senate candidate, is that candidate just wanting a new election and the chance that he might win the second time, right? Because he didn't get it this time,
Mm,
right? Or is he just want
I
it
mean,
because of the
maybe, but
presidential situation?
maybe I don't know. I don't know what his motivation would be. I
Right.
assume it's a he as well.
Yeah, I don't know if it was a winning or losing candidate,
And
but
I
it
agree
just
with
the humorous
I
part.
I also agree with Midget here. The thing about Trump is that he's convinced he would win in a free and fair election. He's definitely in it to win it, but he's convinced he would win if it were fair. I agree with that. Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah, and I, 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 I try and figure out. I guess part of me is trying to figure out the way both sides came at this election with
Hmm.
everything that was done over the last 4 years, and especially the last couple of years with the election going on and the campaigning and all the bullshit. Did they set us up to where we couldn't have a fair election?
Yeah, I mean, there was definitely a lot of poisoning of the well on both sides leading up to the election, and then uh, it does seem to me that we were being primed by the media. Now, this starts sounding like conspiracy talk, but it does seem like we were being primed by the media to accept that it was going to be a Trump landslide at first, and then the late ballots were going to start coming in and flip it to Biden. Uh, and that to me says, look, this is how it's going to be, right? It's going to look like Trump for a while, and then it's going to flip to Biden. But that gives them the chance to, since they already said it, gives them the chance to engage in voter fraud throughout the election. So while I see why they would say that, it also uh, does seem like they were like again they were priming themselves to be able to do voter fraud. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what's pulled up in that. And Elephant Man's bringing up something I've been bringing up the past few days. In 2018 Florida extra ballots. Remember 2018 Florida extra ballots showing up? Yeah, exactly. And I've used that argument a bunch of times. They've tried this tactic in Florida, and it almost worked.
Now, what
Gillum
were the
almost won the
those?
governor.
Oh, for the gubernatorial race, right?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, Gillum almost won because at the last minute, shitloads of ballots were showing up. All of them were for Gillum, right? Like so they did. I just think that they did a lot better of a job this time. They did the same tactic, but did a better job of it.
Right. So I'm kind of curious why there isn't why the left has not put forward their own their own propaganda enterprise to deal to deface Trump in this. Basically,
Well, they have.
hold on. I could see trying to implicate Trump in engineering voter fraud in these places by
Well,
insinuating people into Republicans in as Democrats in different places and trying to commit and or instigate voter fraud, thus to create the voter fraud situation. I'm surprised that hasn't happened because this
because
thought's gone through my head repeatedly.
right, but it's because they knew that they were going to be either they were going to be able to flip it for Biden or it was just going to naturally go for Biden. So by doing that, they would draw more attention to themselves. If they were going to start clamoring for investigating voter fraud, well, guess what? All their investigations have done throughout the past 4 years has only ever implicated their own corruption.
Now, do you think that if they do have something that it's going to be a matter of if Trump is given the election, if he wins the election, then we'll see it surface. I could see not playing that hand because you don't want to shine a light on
Right,
voter
on what
fraud
you're doing.
because then
Yeah.
you'll delegitimize it yourself, right?
Right. So that's
Make it
not the move for them to make. What they're
right,
trying to do then is they're going to say that's why they've been coming up the past few months, been like, oh, Trump's not going to leave office if he loses. He's
right.
not going to leave office. Well, that's because they knew that the election was going to be contentious. Like if it was a landslide for Biden, there's no way he would be able to not you know concede and admit defeat. But since they knew it was going to be so contentious, they were able to say, well, he's not going to leave office. He's not going to leave office, which is priming people again to be ready for Trump to challenge everything and to be stubborn and not. So they knew this beforehand. We all did, but now it's just we're seeing it playing out now,
Well,
and it's yeah,
and this is what is so disconcerting to me is like looking at the numbers, right? And I get the mail-in ballot thing, and I hate how the mail-in ballot situation really got things confused because it's like okay, you know how many of these mail-in ballots are absentee ballots and how many are mail-in ballots.
yeah,
There's no distinction being made between those because there is a
right,
very big difference between the two things, right?
right,
So we're just hearing talk about mail-in ballots with no distinction.
hmm
But I don't understand is to attempt to commit voter fraud in the most scrutinized voter fraud scary election
yeah.
when the result of doing so ultimately brings your worst nightmare to light, which is Trump maintaining power because the election is scrapped or because it becomes into question. Because if now that it's being questioned, I'm shit you not, you know, January 20th, I that's not even a date on my calendar anymore. That there's
Yeah,
no expectation for that date at this point for me because this is going to go on for months.
yeah, I
It's
agree.
it's not going to be solved quickly, and Donald Trump gets to stay in power through that. And that's what I do. This is why I'm scratching my head like why would someone attempt it?
Oh, well, because when you have the media on your side, it's a lot easier to hide your dirt than when they're scrutinizing you and trying to come after you,
But
looking
the
for any
but
little
we're
scrap of something to attack you on. It's a
but
completely different game then.
wait, are they but you're telling me that they're so stupid that they can't understand one simple concept of the present day and age. Everybody's a fucking reporter today.
Oh, but it doesn't matter.
Everybody's got a phone.
Robert,
Everybody's got
Robert,
access to report
right, right.
what's happening
All you
right
have to
now.
do is Twitter gets to put that little thing underneath it saying, "Oh, it's missing context," and here's what our independent fact checkers say about this. Oh, it's bullshit. All these different things, dude. I'm telling you, it's
That's
it's
and I so
actually
it's
covered.
so
It doesn't matter how much of it is found. All they have to do is say, "Well, it's not true. It's been debunked," and then that's it. No more scrutinizing it, and you're not allowed. You can get yourself banned for even bringing it up on social media.
but
I
how
know.
are
Yeah, you
people
understand the frustration.
that speaks to a level of stupidity and lack of critical thinking that
What do you mean?
is beyond me. I
I'm
mean,
not sure what you mean.
I mean, to be that stupid, I
To
can't.
be how stupid for what? Because I just explained how they can get away with it.
Well, I'm not saying get away with it. I'm just saying stupid enough to attempt it. They're not going to get away with it. I
They
mean,
certainly think they are, and I
well,
mean, look at how openly they destroyed Bernie's campaign both times.
yeah,
Right, openly. It was
there's
not a secret.
there's too much microscope on this. There's too much microscope on this to even think you could get away with something if you're going to do something nefarious like this. It's
Hmm.
too much microscope. Even an idiot. I would think even an idiot would see that.
Right, but again, when you have the media, you have social media on your side, it does. You don't have to fool all the people all the time, Robert.
God
You just have
damn.
to fool most of the people most of the time, and they are able to do that. They are
Free.
able to do that.
Elfman says he said it. Oh, wait. Hold on. I got to go back
Yeah,
a
back
little
it
bit.
up.
Uh,
Artist has joined us.
Saint.
Let's point that out real quick. The artist has joined us. How's
Hello,
it going?
hello, artist. Saint
Recognize you
says
from Steven's chat.
the media did prime us for this one. They've been telling us for months how they were going to cheat. Yeah.
Yeah.
George Soros paid me to attend the Trump rallies. Nice. Robert, it's because the left is running the gamut. They're wearing their poker faces. They're all seething cope maggot
MAGA
chuds and
chuds.
hoping you wouldn't look into it. Elephant Man says Dave Smith is warning the left about chastising Trump fans.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. It's not, and just FYI, this is something that it's got to be the takeaway that the American public has got to understand. It's not the voters' fault. None of this is the response. People just went and voted. They voted by
Right.
the means
Yeah.
that they were told that they could vote. So if they voted for Trump or if they voted for Biden, they're not an enemy. They just voted like you did. That's all.
Right.
This is in the hands
Yep.
of other fucking people that are doing
Hundred
stupid
percent.
shit.
Yeah.
And I hope that people are smart enough to maintain that and understand
Right.
that.
And I'll agree with that because I don't have any ill will towards a Biden voter.
Right.
Right? I have ill will towards Biden and the people who are gonna about to allow him to be the president. Sure, but not towards people who voted for him just because they voted.
Right. And no matter how much we may or may not disagree, I know that you don't necessarily like him, but Bill Maher has been saying something very similar for the last year or so. He's like, look, it's you're not in the right to hate a Trump supporter. Just like they're not in the
Right.
right to hate you for being a Biden supporter. The bottom line is that's just your politics. It's
Yeah.
and in this situation, it's nobody's fault just because of who they cast a vote for. Because God knows, like you said, if it was Florida in the middle of all this, our third party votes would get us a brick through the window, right?
Yeah, it's true.
um, Elephant Man says he said if the left doesn't learn their lesson, the next Trump will be all the things they claim Trump is. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean you look. It's downhill from here. What we have
Yeah.
going into the White House, because this is setting a tone for possibly the next 2, 3 elections in the
Probably
going
more.
forward,
Yep.
at least, right?
At
I
least
mean,
that amount.
we haven't
Yeah.
seen the last of a Trump running for office. I'll tell you that right now.
Right. Absolutely, I agree.
Um, and there's no telling how that can go. You know,
Yeah.
freedom of the press is so important. Elephant Man says.
Yeah.
Midget says Robert's reaching the red pill crescendo. Right?
It's true, man. You were right there. You were on the cusp a second ago.
No, I just
You were
yeah. I
right
mean,
there.
John, this is I just it just again I'm in awe at the stupidity
Right.
of people out in the world or
Yeah.
our country. The world is as well, but
But we're
our
talking
country,
right. We're talking about our country right now.
our
Yeah.
community, my state community, my local community, my national community. There's a lot of people out there that are just really not thinking anymore. They're just
Yeah.
acting. They're responding to feelings. Whatever side they're on, they're responding to
So
feelings.
a big thing in both philosophy and psychology is that if you're trying to apply logical thinking or rational thinking to irrational people, then yeah, it's gonna blow your mind. Like if you're expecting people to act rationally, you can't do it. You cannot expect people. So it's like, oh my god, I can't believe someone did that. Well, they're not. It's because you're a rational person and they are not.
Has
It's
the
because
has the
and not everyone is rational. Not everyone thinks everything through like you might, or like our chat might, or like I might. Not everyone thinks all these things through. People just act, or they think they're going to get away with it for whatever reason, or whatever it is. People do not always act rationally, and you can't make them act rationally,
so
and
critical
you can't
think
you can't expect them to.
critical thinking's not a thing anymore. Like,
It's a skill that needs to be acquired, and it
well,
needs to
that
be
used to
used, or it will go away. If so,
it
you can
used
even have it and then not use it, and it'll go away. You won't be
it
able to
used to be
do it anymore.
taught. It used to be
Maybe.
taught in college. Like, it
Sure.
used to be taught in college.
Right.
Right? That was what college was for, was to develop your critical thinking skills. There were even classes, critical thinking this and critical thinking that, and but now it's not. It's not about critical thinking.
Yeah.
It's about linear thinking.
It's about indoctrination mostly.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
It,
about they'll tell you, oh, we're going to be expanding your mind, introducing you to new subjects that you might not have thought about before, new ideas,
right.
but it's kind of all one thing.
I also
It
see
might be new
Ron.
at the time, but
Right. I see
go ahead.
Ron Helton in the chat as well. He
What's up,
says,
man?
"Clap, you stupid bastards! Military ballots breaking 4-1 for Biden. Sure they are."
So while while I also don't agree. I'm sure the military ballots are not breaking to Biden 4-1. There's no fucking way. But at the same time, that clap you bastards thing, that was like 2 years ago, I think. And he was clearly, whether he was doing a good job or not, he was clearly trying to engage in like banter with them. You know what I mean? Like trying to like a soldier might say that to another soldier, or a marine
Right.
might say that to another marine, like "oh, you stupid bastard," but it's banter, right? So I think that he was honestly trying to engage in banter, and it came across as it was just an idiotic way to do it. Yeah,
Oops.
I don't think that was good, but I also can't imagine much of the military voting for Biden because he's much more likely to get them into a new war, whereas Trump has started zero new wars in his term. So you would think the military would go for Trump.
I
Plus, they're generally conservative, and Trump is on the Republican Party. So you would think that most of the time they would vote Republican. Most of the time, right? Obviously, there's exceptions, but most of the time. So
you know
certainly not 4-1 for Biden.
I will say, while militarily speaking, that is one of the things that goes into the plus column for Donald Trump for me is,
Hmm.
because we haven't been military around the world. Now, that's not to say that the Democrats haven't been doing a hell of a job of keeping him distracted with a whole
Oh
lot of
yeah,
other shit, right?
yeah,
Now, I don't agree with his handling of what I consider enemies of ours. I
right.
don't.
And I know I've done everything I could to
Right.
explain
I
it.
I
It
I
hasn't
no,
worked,
you
so I give up.
and you no, you make a good argument, but I don't agree with the diplomacy of it, the policy of it. But
I mean,
that's
it's
it. That's
worked. Look what
that.
happened with Israel and I think it was five Middle Eastern countries.
But
That
we haven't gone to war with anyone. So, and it hasn't escalated further. We've stayed at stalemate. So, I'm
yeah,
not throwing that in a positive column for him, but the way he's kept the military pulling out of countries, getting them back,
hmm,
trying to get more back home, that I can applaud. He has tried to do
yeah,
things for the veterans in this country, which I think have been sorely left behind since
oh yeah,
Vietnam. I mean, there's
for
been
sure.
very few times where they've had perks and, help from the federal government coming. And so, yeah, he's done some good things there. Is it enough to outweigh and get my vote? No, I'm sorry, it wasn't. But um,
Right.
so, Elfman says Mitch at the Valley is going to be rough for Robert. Yeah, probably is. Yeah,
Yeah, the climb
artists,
back up,
right?
the climb
Art,
back up after the red pill. Yeah,
right.
it's a
Artists,
rough road to hoe.
Artist says you're trying to apply logic to idiotic thinking, classic logical fallacy.
Yeah, pretty much
Yep,
what I was
it's
saying. Yeah,
it's the trap. It's like, feeding the troll, right? Uh,
Yeah.
Elfman says, "Remember this chat. Isaiah Washington is the next Trump." His artist says exactly. You can't expect irrational people to act rationally.
Right. Yeah.
Uh, trivium
Trivium,
quadrivium.
quadrivium.
What is that? Is
Not
that?
sure.
It almost sounds like Latin.
It does sound like Latin, and Latin is the devil.
Yeah, Midget says now instead of critical thinking, it's critical theory. Yes, and
Fucking A right, it is.
that
Yeah.
is fantastic. Like we were. It's like we decided we wanted to just start raising philosophers
Right.
as opposed to psychologists,
And not
right?
even and not even good philosophers. We're more like rhetoricians than
Hmm.
philosophers.
That's a
Because
good.
with philosophy, you have to actually think. You have to actually be able to think. With rhetoricians, you just need to be able to parrot back responses that you've been given.
Um, I will say this: if there is voter fraud, I want it to be shown and I want it to be proven. That's
Same.
right. I want
Yeah, of
that to
course.
happen. I want something to shine a light on our election process and make us decide if we need to do something about it, in how we handle it, etc. So, I'm not. I I hope there's not voter fraud. I hope that there's legitimate reasons for everything because I don't want to see us go into the chaos that will create.
I don't know, man.
It's
I'm kind of. I think the collapsitarians are onto something, man. Um, not that I'm a doomer or anything, but it's like at this point,
well,
we're
the only
so
th-
we're
the
just
only
so subverted and demoralized that something needs to happen. I don't know what it is. I don't know what form it should take, but something does need to happen.
if this turns out to be a bad election, this ultimately
Uh,
my the all I can think is that hands Trump the keys to the castle. That's the final piece of the puzzle he'll need to maintain power.
hmm
Now, wouldn't this be funny? What if they get this election canned, but Congress decides, fuck this, we're going to do it like the Constitution originally set it out, and we're going to pick the president.
Mm. Well, I mean, if they do that though, they'd have to wait until we get all our new everyone who's been elected to Congress or to I mean to the state and the House, to the Senate and the House.
Sure, that's the
Uh,
first of next year, and then they can
yeah.
convene and they can choose somebody. It'll delay it by a week, but then whoever it is can take the inaugural address.
No, then they'll be on recess for 6 weeks, and
Well, no,
then
no, no.
they'll
They
come
only
back and
get
they have to
two.
form a committee, and then they're going to have
Right.
to
They'll have a
wait on
2 week
that
recess
committee.
every 2 weeks back. Right.
Right.
Each step takes 2 weeks. Each 2 weeks requires a 2 week break. There are
Right.
87 steps in the process.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you do the math. Oh, we're not teaching you math in school. We're teaching you how to think with your imagination.
Yeah.
Uh, welcome to it, buddy. You think 2020 is done? We still got 2 months, bitches. 2 months. Two of them still
Yeah.
left. And
Oh, I
you and
know.
I both know that 2020
Shit's not
doesn't
going to get
need
better.
that long.
Right.
Let's see. Elfman says Trivium Quadrivium is all four subjects in a liberal arts degree. Gotcha.
hmm
Trivium Quadrivium, artist says, is basically how they used to teach critical thinking. Trivium is grammar, logic, and rhetoric, and quadrivium is arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy. Now, see, that's awesome right there, and
Yeah.
this is what I think does hurt. There's something he put in there, with quadrivium is music and astronomy. Now, like those two things, like you look at those and you're like, well, yeah, those are,
Well, no,
there's
I can
there's
see why they're
importances
important.
there,
I can see why they're important tools to teach people how to think.
right?
I
Um,
can see that. Yeah.
yeah, because and like taking a what's the course called? Oh, the names, it's right here on the tip of my tongue, that teaches you about the humanities. When I took
Mm.
humanities, I thought it was one of the greatest courses in college, and I'm like, I don't understand why they don't teach this in high school, right? Because it dips you into the arts, and the thing, most importantly, how those things interacted with the culture and had an impact on everything that was going on, right? And if
Right.
it, when you start trying to take the arts and the sciences out of teaching, astronomy, what I learned from astronomy? That I'm this big. I'm this big. I'm inconsequential. That's what I
Right.
learned from astronomy. That was the
Get a
critical thinking thing that I really got out of that.
get a healthy dose of nihilism. Yeah.
Right, right. And I mean, just that simple class opened up so much of my mind to how limited I am. Right? That I am
Yeah.
just this inconsequential speck of animal matter on a very small speck of dust in a much larger picture. It's like a goddamn Dolly painting where you got to sit and you look for all the little things that he's painted into the thing, right?
Yeah.
That's how inconsequential I feel, yet, self-important because social media tells me I should be. Right?
Yeah.
Um, Artist says, unfortunately, my humanities class in college was basically just a course on Kafka. What a miserable coont. Yeah, see, that's where it gets, even that's getting fucked up because they're focused on agendas. But
And focus on critical race theory, which is the bedrock of all of your like your intersectionality, all communism in general. All these things that we're seeing out of the left are now coming from the humanities because they're teaching critical race theory.
well, it's interesting to me. It's like you don't need to teach people anything too specific in humanities. When it
Yeah,
comes to
but
that, what you want to do is you want to show them how those cultural things feed off of everything else. Politics and art have fed off of each other for so long, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's crazy, and civilization, entire civilizations, you know, art has had such an impact, and in various ways, even just
Oh
fucking
yeah.
buildings, right? Just buildings. Look at Greece. I mean, we still look at those ancient buildings today and think, damn, they were able to do that back then,
Yeah.
right?
One of my favorite things is back in the early Middle Ages. No, the High Middle Ages. It was
Have a good night,
popular.
Saint.
Oh, see you, Saint. Have a good one. It was actually really popular for kings, but also lesser nobles to have like either a painter on retainer or some kind of bard, some kind of minstrel or something, who would at least the minstrels would create songs about their political opponents, like talking
Right,
shit about their political opponents, and that was considered to be like the height of wealth if you're able to create songs to talk shit about
right,
anyone else around you. So as opposed to like the finery or
right.
a bigger castle or something, you would have these people who would go out and spread these songs about talking shit about your political opponents. The same with paintings,
Sure.
they would they would
And
draw
and and
paintings of
and
like satirical paintings and stuff about their political opponents.
and the same thing with religion. I mean, intrinsically, the arts tied to religion for
Oh well, yeah,
centuries,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
I mean, they go hand in hand.
Well,
The
I think it had more. The culture was heavily religious, so the paintings of that
Sure,
culture reflect that. The art of any
right.
kind of art of that culture reflect that. Yeah,
Some of our greatest masterpieces are,
religious in nature.
religious in nature, and
Yeah, absolutely.
so it's the doors that are open, but when they get into the minutia of individual philosophies by these people or this movement or that, and what it really, no, that movement existed at the time.
Mhm.
It's not relevant in the present day and age. I mean, this isn't a philosophy course, right? It's just
Yeah,
not, right? Just teach me about art, teach me about science, teach me about math. Don't
yeah,
I don't know. Look what it's created. This is what it's created.
right.
It's
Well, it was
one of
done.
the
It was. I think it was done on purpose. I don't think that everyone along the way was aware of that, but I do think that it was done on purpose.
what's the end goal and how
The
long
end
away is it?
is complete subversion of America, of the U.S., complete subversion of of Western culture in general.
To a socialist, to
Socialist or
fascist.
communist, something like socialist, communist, authoritarianism, totalitarianism in general. Don't think it really matters which one it gets to, as long as whoever's in charge is has complete power.
Um, and both sides are on that same path, or do you think this is?
No, no, I think no, I don't. I don't. I think it's whoever gets there with that ambition. I don't think like both sides are actively pursuing that goal, but I think that that is, I guess, more like the inevitable end goal or end of it, the inevitable conclusion of it, rather than some goal that like one person is pursuing.
But who's behind it, John? Is it the Illuminati?
No, I don't think
Is it
there's. I
is
don't think it's the
is it
Illuminati. I don't think it's anything.
corporations?
Like I said, I don't think it's like a group of people or even or one person or anything like that. I think it's just the way that things have been set. Someone's going to take advantage of that along the way, and it was started just before probably way before the Soviet Union collapsed. So it was a lot to do with them, and it's just been taken and run with since. And someone's going to realize that that's what's going on, and then get into power and be able to take advantage of that. So I think it's kind of like a driverless, car at the moment. Like it's still going, but all it's going to take is someone to get in the driver's seat.
Um, yeah, I thought for the longest time that it was going to be about a class war eventually. That's what I thought we
That
were going
was
to be
the
building
original
to.
goal, yeah.
I thought that's
But
what I mean, and for all intents and purposes, based off of everything, that is what we should be dealing with
well,
right now.
so you would think so, but America is kind of unique in this aspect in that we don't make much of a distinction between class. Um, there are people who are in upper middle class who are friends with very poor people, right? There's no, even Karl Marx agreed with this, that there's no revolutionary potential in the proletariat because there's not enough distinction in class. At least in America, there's not. Um, that's why the strategy switched from class to race because it's much easier to make the argument for races oppressing one another rather than classes.
Um, yeah, and that's where I think that's where it becomes challenging to me because like from a if you look at if you go by the numbers, the percentages don't speak to a disparity of one race over another in this country. I mean, we have definitely come very close to that,
Yeah,
melting pot that we've always talked
but
about being, right?
right,
Um,
but it's also a lot easier to convince people that they are oppressed due to race than it is due to class in this country
well,
because there's too much mobility between the classes. Like very rich people can easily become very poor. Very poor people can not easily, but they can become and do often enough become very wealthy. So there's way too much upward mobility in this country when it comes to wealth and class that it's not as much of a like a stick in our crop,
so,
Whereas race, you can't change your race, right? There's no mobility between races, so it's much easier to subvert and demoralize through that than it is through classes.
so it's much easier to convince people that um, they're oppressed because of race, not because of a lack of opportunity, right?
Well,
You
the
can't
reason why
you
you
can't
don't
say
have
you don't have
opportunity,
you can't say you don't have opportunity if you say, well, you could be rich if you wanted to be,
oh, you can tell them that. You can
right?
tell them that they don't have opportunity, but it
But
won't be true.
but if you're a
But as long as
different
you convince them, then
but if
yeah,
you're a different race, then it's easier to make the argument that there's less opportunity as opposed to making it about money.
right. It's saying like, yeah, you could move up in class, but the white man won't let you do it. You know what
because
I mean?
because this poverty line, like the lower class and then the middle class, I mean, there's a lot more people in those two classes
Of course.
in the
Well,
right
then the
than there.
very wealthy. Then because if you talk about middle class and you've got like upper middle class, which is pretty much Like if you're, I don't know where exactly the cutoff is. I don't know if there is a distinct cutoff, but it's where you're doing very well, but you wouldn't be called rich or wealthy, but you are very comfortable.
Is it possible that the Democrats didn't want to put Bernie forward at either election because he could have accomplished
I
a class
honestly,
war in this country?
yeah, I honestly think that he could have won
He could
if he was
he
allowed to continue.
and he could
I
have
honestly think that
created a
there's a good chance that he would have won.
and he could have switched the focus to class if he
Right.
were in office, couldn't he?
Yeah, for sure. But also all the people who are in charge are very
Right,
very
right.
wealthy, and they
They're
don't want
they're
they don't
part of
want
that
that
elite.
socialist shit.
Right. So
Yeah,
we can't let Bernie in because this motherfucker could
right.
ruin it for all of
Which
us.
is why Biden isn't going to do anything to anyone. That tax thing he keeps talking about. Oh, if you make over 400,000, I doubt that that's going to happen. I
Right.
highly doubt that it's going to happen. It's going to be across the board. Taxes are going up slightly,
Uh,
or taxes on certain things will go up rather than income taxes. Now, obviously, taxes are going to go up because they're going to get rid of the Trump tax cut, but that it's going to go back to the time it was before the Trump tax cuts, and then he's going to, uh, you know, bring up taxes on certain products, whatever it might be.
artist Midget says I need to Google the Great Reset. Which,
Yeah, it's a good idea.
yeah, yeah,
You should do that.
yeah, I'm gonna be dead one of these days anyway.
We all are, Robert.
Yeah, there's. I'm assuming that it has apocalyptic potential. I might as well read Revelations. I mean that. Yeah. I mean, if
There's some
you knew
shit in
how many times
Revelation,
the world
man.
was supposed to have ended in my lifetime,
Oh, I know. Same with mine. Yeah.
you'd be pretty fucking crazy too.
Yeah.
Artist says learning about classical philosophy at this point is about the same as learning about history. It just shows how things culminated to the advancements we currently stand on.
Well, it
Uh,
certainly shows you, I think, that there are very few original ideas these days because most of the things that are being done, that are being talked about, most of the ideas, especially that are talked about, were talked about by the ancient Greeks and the ancient Romans.
yeah, I
Most of
mean,
them, not all of them, but most of them.
yeah. There's only there. I mean, nothing's original anymore. So I mean,
Yeah,
all these thoughts have been had by somebody,
right.
right? I mean, it's
Whether they did something with them or not is different, but
right,
yeah,
right. But
most thoughts have been had before.
you're not
Yeah,
having an original thought. No, you don't do it anymore,
most
right?
of the
I
time.
mean, there's been far
Very
too
few
many.
people, yeah, very few people do, and when they do, they become extremely successful,
Right. Uh,
regardless if it's a good idea or not. They still.
Artist says if you read Logos Rising, EMJ makes a good point that the Apostle John kind of perfected the classic philosophies and the Hebrew historicity. Is that a word?
I don't know.
To bring us the truth of the gospel, but I digress. Uh,
Yeah,
Elephant says,
I don't know about Ian Michael Jones. Like I've heard him speak a lot, and he definitely knows his shit for sure.
right,
I just don't know that I agree with a lot of his conclusions,
right.
but he absolutely knows his shit.
Um, Alpha Man says Continuum is a Canadian TV show that touches on the corporate takeover of government. I've talked about that show on here before. I love that
Okay.
show. I'm about due to watch it again. Sadly, it's all completed. They didn't go far enough and like complete the story, but they've you know it's it's sad, but it's a good one. I really love the take it has on the future. Um, Elfman says, "What is the strategy when the Latinos are the majority?" Midget says the Latino majority strategy is to kill all the joggers. Um, but
Demonetized.
I think I've mentioned this to you before, John. Like I don't know, within the last decade, I read a study. We'll call it a
Hmm.
study. That
Call it
basically
that.
hypothesized that 70% of the world's population will be of some Latino mix by
Hmm.
like the year 2050, 2075, somewhere in that range. We had like 60 or 70 years till it would come to fruition.
Well, they typically do have a lot of kids,
Right.
so it
But
makes sense.
and also, like in our country and in other countries where they're, intermingling races, et
Yeah,
cetera, that eventually there's just, like 70% of the world's population is going to be have some Hispanic blood in them.
right. And see, the thing is, midget's right about this, though. Not necessarily that that'll be their strategy would be to kill black people. That's not really the strategy. Obviously, that's a little hyperbole. But Latinos historically not big fans of black people in
No.
general.
No,
Not,
there's more
yeah,
racism between those two that's not talked
than there are
about.
between. Oh
That's the
yeah.
thing, not talked about, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even if you can, and not to generalize and not to stereotype, but
No,
the
it
same
is a
thing could be said.
generalization
Well,
because obviously
excuse me,
that's
not to
not always the case.
stereotype, but
Yeah.
when you talk about Asians, there are Asian groups that, in countries that
Big
are
fans.
not big fans at all of African
Yeah.
Americans in any way, shape, or form. And to the extent that they say derogatory things to their faces,
Right.
like it's just part of their culture to be derogatory to their
Well, they're allowed
faces.
to, but you know what? If they're yeah, I mean, listen, Latinos, they're actually considered white by a lot of people,
Well,
by the
yeah,
government for one, because it's are you white Hispanic or white non-Hispanic, right? On like official forms and stuff. But no, I mean their cultures though, or their culture from different countries, but their cultures are very compatible with Western culture. So like, there's absolutely no problem with having them around. Like they're
right.
good people. Yeah.
Elephant Man says, I think it's to try and sow discord between whites and Latinos, 50-50 split. He says one party will be the party of whites and the other will be the party of the Latinos. That I could see that. Mrs. Robert, when you point to the failure of the demographic and blame it on a system instead of forcing self-reflection, then what do you get?
And critical race theory,
He
intersectional.
says, I'm going to be dead one of these days. That's the plan. It's not a plan, it's an expectation. I've
Happens to
seen
everyone.
this right here. This is the biggest impact I'm going to have on anything in my
Yeah,
lifetime, right?
same.
Where this show is at, where it goes. This is it. I'm not
Yep.
gonna I'm not gonna be in office. I'm not gonna make some significant change out there in the world. I'm not going to go down in history as a name remembered for much longer than a few minutes on the lips of anyone besides maybe those close to me.
Yeah.
Um, you know, but I'm a realist. I'm on the latter half of my human lifespan. I know this. you know, it is what it is. So
Yeah.
this
No way to
is
avoid it.
it's not like I said, it's not necessarily a plan, but then again, it's kind of the plan in place for all of us, right? I mean, if
Yeah,
you really think
exactly.
about it, isn't that the plan for all of us?
There's no
Live,
avoiding
die,
it.
pay
So,
taxes.
in that order.
Right, right. Live, die, pay taxes, cast a
live,
vote.
live, pay taxes, cast vote, die, pay taxes, cast votes. Yeah.
Right. Uh,
Ooh,
Midget says,
midget.
"Why don't you faggots write
Love.
a book already? About
Maybe we
what?
should.
We should
Maybe
write
we
the
should.
new Bible, the new American Bible."
But wait, so what would our book be about, midget? What specifically should we
Oh no, 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 no! We
do? That
can't
thing
leave.
you've always wanted to do. The thing that I just talking about the thing I wanted to do.
Don't leave the
Yeah,
topic in his hands. Please don't do that to me.
actualize yourself.
Actualize yourselves.
Yeah.
Now, hey,
No, I do. Hang on, real quick. I do plan on getting back to my book. It's just when my life got kind of flipped, turned upside down.
what was that, Fresh Prince?
Yeah, that's why I keep saying that. Yeah, that's the first time someone's mentioned it,
Right.
but or made that connection, I guess. But yeah, so I plan on going back to it. I finally got stabilized. We got some work going now and stuff. So yeah, I plan on getting back into it.
I have one book self-published on Amazon, so if that takes off, then I might jump back in and write something else one of these days. But I really don't. I don't know. The only thing that I've had any desire to write is my thoughts on the potential for
Do it,
corporations to take over
do it. Write
my
a science
free.
fiction. Write a dystopian science fiction
Yeah,
novel.
but that's been done.
Of course, it has.
It's hard
That's,
to.
more than one person can be successful at it. In fact, they are.
I think it would be better as
I
theoretical
mean,
nonfiction.
do you think that Orson Scott Card shouldn't have written his science fiction novels after
I'm
Ayn
not
Rand
saying
did,
anything about anybody
or
writing
Robert
anything.
Heinlein,
I'm not.
or anyone else?
I
I mean,
you know, there's if I was going to
we
write
just
something about this, it would be nonfiction. It wouldn't be
okay.
it wouldn't be fairy
Or
tale.
it would
I would be
be,
wanting
saying
to
it would
write
be like
something nonfiction that talks to the potential for the corporatocracy. Like
right. So you're
I
talking
would want to
about
be that guy that the corporations come back into the past to try and kill.
right. So you're talking about like a political treatise.
Hmm. I guess in a way, yeah, yeah. I guess that's
Yeah.
what it would
So
be.
those are often disguised as fiction.
Oh, are they? Yeah.
Because
Well,
Ayn Rand, I just mentioned three of them.
Wizard of Oz.
Wizard of Oz. I'm talking about Ayn Rand, Heinlein, Orson Scott Card. Like all these were political treaties disguised as fiction.
See, when I write fiction, though, I have this sad proclivity to wax poetic in the writing, and it
Yeah,
becomes
good.
and
Do it.
yeah, it becomes less descriptive and more. You'd have to read some of the stuff, the book like
I would like
what I've
to.
self-published. You'd have to see what I'm talking about.
I would
It's
like to.
yeah, um, I try to wordsmith it, to where it sounds like the ramblings of a Hunter S. Thompson or something to that extent. You know what I mean? Um,
So what you're saying is you're trying too hard to be someone else and not
no, no,
writing
the
your own.
style is that's what it winds up being.
Mm.
It's just not. I'm not
Well,
comparing
what's
myself
wrong
to
with?
Hunter Thompson. I'm just
Well, I'm
saying,
saying, what's wrong with that
just
style
it's
though?
rambly, as it were, with.
I mean, it worked for him. I don't know.
I don't know. Well, it hasn't worked for me because the book's been on Amazon for probably
What kind of marketing have you
5 to
done
8.
for it?
Oh, what's that?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not about just putting it out there. You got to market it too.
Well, if you want, you know what? Here, I'll market it. It's called Wine and Cheese, and it's published by Robert Brasher. You can look it up on Kindle. Wine with a WH, Wine and Cheese. Look it up. It's like $3. I put $3 on it because I was being greedy. Um, it's worth more than that to me. I go back and read it every once in a while because it was a segment of my life. It was something I was
It's
going
an
through, and
achievement.
it was the passage through a difficult time in my life, and it was just me writing during that course of time and some poetry. That's the other, it's got poetry in it too. So suck it up. But it's
I'm
prose and
sure.
poetry.
I'm sure that there are people in our audience who will read it, who will buy it and read it,
Yeah, we'll see.
even if it's just to make fun of you.
We'll see if
I'm sure they
Amazon,
do
if I get an email from Amazon, hey, you finally sold. We dusted some books
it. Some of
off.
these off, right? We found them in the corner of a warehouse somewhere.
Right?
We've been using the box to sit on while we
We
smoke
didn't know the
cigarettes and stuff.
forklift would go that high.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Alpha Man says, I started writing a fiction novel once and stopped because the first chapter came true.
Well, hang on, because Midget B said Heinlein is based, which is 100% true. He was
he,
awesome
he
with
was
it.
based. He says the medium of allegory is inclined towards cultural messaging. It's natural.
Yeah.
Yeah. But now, I mean, oh my God, I have to tell you though, the book market, like having been working with a publisher for a while now, right? Um,
Hmm.
and like you know, anybody, everybody think, I don't know, they all think everybody thinks they're a writer now, right? So there's just so many books being published, being coming out there, and like book mills just putting out just so
Yeah.
many of them, right? Because you don't have the paper medium to worry about, right? I mean, I look at the list of all in the same genre books that my publisher is putting out on a yearly basis, and I'm talking, I don't know, anywhere from 8 to 15 a month.
So let me ask you
And
something, Robert. Are you better at writing than these people
some
that
of
you
them
think?
and then there's a handful of the writers that I deal with that are phenomenal. They can paint a great picture. They really put, I just got through doing a series of books, doing summarizing them because we're going to be handing it off to a new writer. It was a dead series,
Right.
but they want to reinvigorate it. So I was going through and reading all 15 of these books in the series, and
Mm.
these are mysteries, witch mysteries. Basically, is what
Mm-hmm.
they're called, cozy mysteries that women like to read. But
Yep.
um, really good author, writes from the first person perspective of the sleuth in it, and is
Interesting.
like
Yeah.
is drew me in. It wasn't a chore to read these 15 books.
Yeah.
Really good writer, and but the irony is that writer doesn't get any more credit than the paycheck for the ghostwriting he did, because
Right.
and it's a shame that because I'm like, you've got talent, you know, you could self-publish books very easily, or even get stuff past a publisher, that
Mm-hmm.
they would pick it up and foot the bill. Um, but yeah, so I will say this: I think it's improved my writing, but
There you go.
the sheer quantity of writers that are out there these days
Right.
putting junk out.
So the quantity shouldn't matter, and this was going to be my point. Is the quantity shouldn't matter if your quality is better.
Well, the quantity is what speaks to the originality. So now it's like, okay, for instance, the three different genres that I deal with my publishing company, I would never write a book in one of those genres because I know how many publishers are out there churning out so many of these, and I mean, they're all the same fucking story, John. They're
Yeah.
all the same story.
Well, so there really are like 12 different stories that are ever
Right,
told.
right. I mean,
They're just told in different ways. How are
there's
you
only
going to
so many
stand
tropes,
out?
right? There's only
Yeah,
so
of
many tropes.
course. And people expect a lot of them, and and sometimes violation of expectation is a good thing, but doing it too much will turn a lot of people off.
So that's one of the things that, as a writer, impedes me. We can call it a form of writer's block, where I sit down and I'm like, I get stuck on the, okay, I want to put together an idea, off something I've thought of before, but then it's like, how much of it is just going to be, it's going to, I'm so critical of my own writing, like any good writer is, right?
Yeah, of
That I'm like,
course.
how derivative is this going to be?
But
You know,
right, and that was a problem I had with my book, which is why I kind of stopped with it for a little while because I realized it was highly derivative, and I was just like, all right, I need to rethink this completely.
right?
Pretty not completely, but enough to where it's not so derivative.
Right. And you really have to ask yourself, do I have enough confidence to try and reinvent the wheel?
Right.
Will it be enough to stand out? And that's where I get bogged down in the writing, to where I start, self-editing on the first page, where it's like, I haven't even introduced the character, and
Yeah.
I think I've got like six different stories that I've started. I was going to
Yep.
write one that was the hero, as it were, the anti-hero in the story was going to be a serial killer who he would kill his victims, and then he would make art with them at the crime scene,
Mm.
and and all of this, going into the whole psychological aspect of it, and this, that, and the other. But he was going to be the anti-hero, was the ultimate goal, because have a continuation of books, much kind of like, then I started thinking about, like, oh, this sounds like, they did this with Dexter. They tried to do this with
Right.
Hannibal Lecter, and then I'm like,
Right.
okay, and then I stopped writing. I
But the
got in my
important thing
head,
is the important thing is to put a unique spin on it.
right?
So what I realized with mine is that it was actually without like realizing it until I went back and read what I had already written, is that it's highly derivative of the plot for Fable 3. Like I didn't even realize it at the time, but it was highly derivative of that. And so I had to like, all right, let me put it on, put it on
Oh,
pause for a bit and rethink it. And then of course everything happened that happened.
Elephant Man says that the book that he was going to write started with a
Hmm.
bombing at the World Trade Center.
Yeah.
And he said
Yeah, I was reading it as he was
inspired by
writing.
a Tom Clancy book. The next day the first bombing occurred. I haven't written since. I still had the one subject binder I started writing the first chapter in.
Midget's right though. Post pics in Discord. Picture didn't happen, bruh. But
Uh,
no, I mean, I'm sure he's not lying. I don't think I've never known Elephant Man to lie, but
but
who knows?
isn't it interesting how, something like that, that's what I say, it can have an impact on just fucking everything you do moving forward. Is, I would have shit my pants if I had done that. If I would have been like, oh, fuck. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think
Well,
I would have written anything.
that's why I'll stick to writing fantasy and not more modern day stuff because fuck that.
Yeah, yeah.
John, you know how I am about privacy. I don't
Sir,
recall anything about that, but I mean, I respect your privacy, man. If you don't
uh,
want to post, we don't have to
I'm
post it.
sorry, Elephant Man. The Fourth Amendment was abolished, I believe,
Yeah, I'm pretty
in
sure we don't have that anymore.
2002 or 2003. That, come on, come on, catch up.
Yeah, if you don't want to post pics, you don't have to post pics. It's all good, man.
I'm willing to believe you. I'm willing to believe you just from the perspective that, yeah, you don't make that shit up. I mean, come on, who wants to sit around and, like, be an attention whore because you wrote something about the bombings at the World Trade Center? You know, that's not the go-to for being an attention whore. Not from a fine, upstanding citizen like Elephant Man,
Absolutely.
right?
Of course.
Um, but no, yeah, yeah. Then I did, I started another one. What surprised me about the books that I've started writing, not a single one of them sci-fi or fantasy.
Hmm. See, those are the only two. Those are the two main ones that I read as a kid. So those are the two that I would draw inspiration from. Either one, but mostly fantasy because I don't know as much about science. Like a lot of good science fiction writers will include a lot of like science mumbo jumbo or like astrophysics and shit into their books, and I can't. Like Eric Nyland was a great example of that because he was actually an astrophysicist. So when he was explaining like faster than light travel and stuff, like he explained it with immense amounts of detail. It was really incredible. But I could never do that, so I would rather stick to fantasy where I have more knowledge of like medieval,
Right.
life, culture, weapons, armor, all that kind of shit. I have much more knowledge there, so I'd be much more inclined to write a fantasy novel.
Now I take that back. There was one that I started on, but it was an odd way that I started on it. The name came to my mind, and I drew the map of the world first, but I didn't write anything about it.
That's what I did
But
too.
I drew the map of it, and it was going to be the book, and I was going to build the book around the title. This was one of those where, you know,
You came up with the title first.
right,
Yeah.
the penumbral enclave,
Hmm.
right? So you can imagine, where that was going to go, and it was going to be a fantasy level novel that was going to, but it was going to be strongly tied to like an Illuminati type theme.
Hmm.
Is what I had in my head, but in a more fantasy medieval setting. There were sure to be dragons involved
Oh yeah, knowing you, there's gonna be dragons.
and elves. You can't not have
Well, yeah,
elves,
you gotta have elves. Yeah.
right? And trolls to make the elves look taller because technically elves are short, but next to a dwarf they're tall, depending on the lore, right? Which lore you're
Yeah, yeah.
going with.
But a lot of the time, especially more modern elves, are going to be like tall and slender.
Yeah, they wanted to be inclusive, right?
More feminine looking. Even the men like are more feminine looking, but
Um,
they're strong and very agile, and very smart and very powerful in magic, and they pretty much have no weaknesses. Like,
so, and there you have it, folks. Our conversation about the legitimacy of our election has digressed
digress.
into a conversation about writing, which John and I should probably both do. Maybe John, you and I should collaborate on a piece together,
Mm.
something maybe satirical, um, for the times, as it were. I'm thinking something John Stewart slash Stephen Colbert kind of, you know,
I don't know, man. I think between both of our imaginations, we can make a fantastic fantasy world and
But
novel
you'll want to put,
set of series of novels.
you'll want to be inclusive, and you'll be like, oh well, we need an Asian character, and oh, we have to have a lesbian,
That's
and
you're saying I'm gonna want to be like
and
that? Not what you're saying.
yes, I know how you are. You're a millennial. You'll be
I
like,
know.
oh, we've got to be inclusive. We've got to make sure that we don't step on any toes, and
Whatever. I don't give a fuck about that.
you know, why is it always the goblins that are getting? Is it because their skin is green and
They're
um,
just trying to live their life, bro. You went into their land. I'm just saying. You went into their cave or whatever. You know.
I would say
It's
maybe
just property rights, bro.
I think the two of us could actually write a great book if we did something if we did alternative history, um, but do
Hmm.
like alternative future history. Is there a way
Like
to do that?
speculating if this happens, then
Right,
here's what we think
right,
will happen. Yeah, we could
right.
probably do that.
But no, Harry Turtledove does some great alternate history stuff. What if the South had won the Civil War?
Right.
What if Germany had come up with the atomic bomb first, or
Yeah.
this kind of things. Stories, very good stories, and I'm like, there's some good alternate history kind of aspects you could look at and really do some fun stuff with. But you'd probably just want to write about Irish stupidity, recipes on corned beef and cabbage and shit. But
That's not even Irish. That's
it,
American Irish.
whatever, green
God,
beer, whatever,
green beer.
Blarney Stones and ham
Oh
hock
my God.
shamrocks and
Oh my God.
I
Who are
don't know.
you to be so ignorant in the ways of Irish?
It'll
Nah.
be all about potatoes, potatoes and
Yeah,
liberation.
that's right. Free the
That's
potato.
there's a title.
Hashtag
There's a
hashtag free the potato. Yeah.
there's a title for a book right there. Potatoes and liberation. Let's talk about Ireland for a while. All right.
We could do that. Oh my God. I should
Right?
actually, I might do a stream of that next week. Call it that.
Potatoes and
Potatoes and
liberation.
Liberation. That sounds like a good name for one. And I'll just talk about
See,
like,
I'm good with
yeah,
the ideas,
it's the
execution.
execution. See, that's
Yeah.
how I am too. So hopefully together with our shitty execution, we can do something half decent.
Elephant Man, how are you at transcribing
Yeah.
from conversation?
Right.
And then we'll go behind and we'll just add the grammatical flux that that if it's not there. But I think you could do it, right? Yeah, we'll have
Yeah,
that's what
sure.
we'll do. We'll have Midget ghostwrite it for us. Uh,
He said not.
no, that was Elephant Man that said not.
That's what I mean, yeah, because you were asking him
No, I
originally.
said midget.
No, you said Elephant Man first.
Are you sure I said Elephant Man? Did I say Elephant
Yeah,
Man?
I'm like 90% sure.
Oh, I could have sworn I said midget because yeah.
You said midget second.
All right, so both of them can do it.
Yeah,
Fine.
we'll hire them both.
Yeah. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
We'll have
You're
them
using
audition
some big
for
words there. Higher.
it.
All right.
Yeah,
Um, I I'm gonna say let's call this one.
yeah,
It's not too
I'm
early,
down.
but a little bit early. I'm in a little bit of pain, and I'd like to get out of this
Yeah, no problem.
crooked position right now. So if you could, John, did have we reminded everybody to hit the like button that didn't already? If you're on
No, we
YouTube, but
didn't.
mostly they're
Could
on
do
D Live. Yeah, hit the diamond button if you haven't already, and I mean like
that.
button. But John, if they want to find us, there's a spiel down here. Do you
Yeah,
have some sort
yeah.
of
I'll go
spiel?
ahead and read out the spiel that's down there. We've got our links down below the description. Our Twitter, which is at the Gen Gap P. We've got our Discord server, which is a lot of fun. We're both in there often enough, but there's always someone in there who'll have a conversation with you. So make sure you join that. We got our subscribe star down there. If you have a passing affection for us and you feel like supporting us, please feel free to do so. We will not stop you. Um, We've also got freedomscoop.com, of which we are affiliates. You can find all of our stuff over there, as well as other lesser creators such as Stephen Ignoramus and Jay Edgar. We've got Wyatt from the Breakdown with Birkenhoff over there. We've got RRC and Freckles and Pritt over there as well. So you make sure you check them out. And while you're over there, make sure you buy our merch. We got t shirts, we got mugs, They're awesome, good quality stuff, and I think you'll enjoy them. And if you're kind of hesitant on that, well, you can put in the code GenGap at checkout and get 15% off of your purchase. So hopefully that swayed you a little bit.
Sway, sway
Sway.
into the music. But anyway, yeah, thank you very much, everyone, for showing up tonight, being part of the conversation. Um, I, I don't, I am gonna say right now, I don't expect there's gonna be a decision on this for. I'll be honest with you. I'm gonna say 6 months. I think we're looking realistically at 6 months before we know one way or the other who won this election.
I don't think
I,
it'll be quite that long, but I do think it's going to be a little while.
if I, you know, if I was of the mindset to challenge this thing, I'd make it take as long as possible. If
Sure.
I were in the seat of power, I mean, I would just, I know how it would be. But anyway, so just, just let's all take a pill. Let's get back to work, do our thing. Let's try and, while nobody's focused on it really, let's go on and do like act like this COVID thing isn't as bad as they were making it out to be, and get back to our daily grind and do our thing, and let
Yeah.
the big kids play and do their thing. If we ignore them, they'll probably sort it out quicker. Maybe.
Well,
I don't know.
also maybe some advice, I guess. Also, don't just like I don't know. I'm trying to search for the right word. Don't be infected by, or don't allow like mainstream media or even alternative media to just like infect you. Like, don't just watch it nonstop and do nothing
Right.
else. Right? Find, hobbies are awesome, great distractions. Go somewhere, get away from it all for your own sanity. Because if you just like pay attention to politics at all times, pay attention to the news at all times, it's just going to drive you insane,
Right.
because we as humans are not meant to consider all these huge things all the time at all times,
Right.
right? So for your own sanity, get away from it from time to time.
And,
Like
and
spend like a week offline,
right.
completely offline,
Yeah.
for real. And it's something that even like I'll do from time to time, with the exception of doing the show. I've told Robert every time, he's like, "Oh, have you heard about this?" No, I've not been paying attention to anything for a while. And there's a reason for that, because it does help. It
Um,
helps you recenter yourself and realize that, there's more important things in your life than this.
right. Well, I kind of had that same epiphany, and it was a very simple thing that triggered it for me, and that was looking at that same electoral count that's been
Over
up
and
for the
over.
last 3 days.
Yeah,
It's like, okay, this is not moving. Nothing's changing. A little bit of fluctuation in numbers here and there. I can't. Okay, now it's just going to be, okay, I'm waiting for the headline to pop up that tells me one or the other one, or somebody has forestalled the election
right,
for the time being till we have. All right, that's, yeah.
right. Because the updates are
Disconnect.
pretty.
Do some
Updates are
disconnect.
useless.
Yeah,
Yeah, the updates are useless.
definitely do some disconnect. Take this time, because right now, you know, this month, I mean, Black Friday, Walmart's doing Black Friday, 3 Black Friday events this month.
Jesus.
3 Black Friday events, John. How's that for some shit? But they're not going to be open on Thanksgiving. Ha ha
Right.
ha. Nifty, right? They're like, oh, we're not going to do that again this year. So there's
Right.
lots of things to focus on. We've got Thanksgiving coming up. We've got Christmas coming up in a couple of months.
Yeah,
Focus
exactly.
on these
Concentrate.
things.
Focus on your family. Focus on your friends, people closest to
Yeah.
you, neighbors, even. Focus on more local things than the world.
Put a mask on your butthole. And make sure your farts are not infecting anybody, and
Right.
just go on about your business as normal.
Yeah.
But until then, We're going to get the hell out of here for
Yeah.
tonight. We'll be back again on Wednesday for our another rousing episode of Shooting the Shit, like you normally have come to expect on Wednesday. We'll be targeting 9:30 for that one, and then we'll be back again also next Friday. John, you intimated that in the near future we might have a guest, but
On Friday the 13th. Yep.
that would be next Friday then.
Yeah.
We
Yeah, next Friday. We're having Mr. Behavior, Chris Lopes. We'll be having him on. So if you're familiar with him, awesome. If not, he's a really cool guy. Hung out with him with Ed when he was doing his D Live exclusive of the vice presidential debate. Really fun guy to have to be around. I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be good.
I heard a rumor that he's not Asian.
He is not Asian, correct?
Okay. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't, I don't want to cast
yeah, yeah.
disparagement, but anyway, so we'll be back Friday the 13th at 8:30. We'll have that going on. That those two times, 8:30 and 9:30, are of course in Eastern time, the one and only true time zone that matters. Outside of that, much love to all of you. Look for us in Discord. Hopefully, we'll have something to say or ignore. One of the two. The options are kind of limited. But until
Yeah.
then, we'll see you later, folks. Have yourselves a great night. Peace out.
Yep. See you guys.